Hi, I'm Gene Shuey with another tip from the workbench. In this month, we're going to be looking at modifying or polishing the Series 80 system out of the 1911. Now, there's two ways that we can go about this. One is a ready-made kit of all the Series 80 parts that we will be working on. However, they're titanium nitride coated and they have somewhat of a nice polish on them, but they are expensive. What I do is I always take the Series 80 system out of the gun that I'm working on, so I know that doesn't need any other tuning other than what we're going to do in order to make it a real nice and a better trigger job. Let's take a look now at how the Series 80 parts out of the gun that we're working on, how they are assembled. The reason why I assembled them this way is to see our contact points, like here, 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 and here. Now, the trigger stirrup is going to push this. When it does, it's going to push this down to allow that to drop down so our firing pin can then be fired and hit the primer, discharge the gun. All right, let's take a look now. That's painted in red. This is red. This is red. If you can see it, see the red surface there? That's where the trigger stirrup hits. And this portion right here, that's where this hits. Now, let's take a look and see how we're going to do this, how we're going to polish it. We're going to use a 6 or an 8-inch buffing wheel, and it's charged with a high polished compound. Well, Brownells has one, which I use, and it's called 555, and that is for hard metal, and which this is hard. It's going to turn at about 3,600 RPM, so we're going to have to be very careful how we do this, particularly how we hold it, and make sure that we have our safety glasses so nothing flies in our eye. Here is what I use to hold this. I place it in here, and then I'm going to go over here, and we're going to polish it. Let me get ready. Safety glasses. I got my part. Here's the part. I'm holding it secure, and I'm going to polish that. But one thing that I want to impress upon you, when you polish the parts, make sure that you don't over polish it and remove a lot of the metal or hardly any metal. Why? Okay, here is why. Because we have 3 parts here that have to interchange, and they have tolerances. And if we modify those tolerances and take too much off, then that pin that comes down or plunger that comes down is not going to come down all the way because we removed too much metal. So what will happen is then the firing pin is not going to have enough clearance on those parts, and we may have a misfire. Okay, let's go over here and polish. I'm going to hold it steady and tight. Okay, nice bright surface. Let's take a look at it. There you can see that we polished that very nicely, and we didn't remove a lot of the metal. Okay, let's check and see if we're going to polish anything else on these surfaces. Aha, we got that one. Right there. Let's polish that. Now, that's a sharp edge right there, or a pointed edge. Make sure that when we polish this, we don't jab that into the wheel, and then we'll be on our hands and knees looking for the part. Okay, that's all we need. Take another look at it. Now, I'm going to place it over here. We aren't finished yet. We have another surface that we have to polish. Put the pliers on here. That's the surface that we're going to polish. Let me go ahead and do it. Have control of it. Polish it. Let's take a look. Now, look at that nice finish. That's a nice one. And I always polish this part on this surface a little bit better than I do the others, because the slide's going to go over it, and I want to make sure we're going to reduce our friction. That is the whole purpose of polishing all of this, is to reduce the friction. Less friction on a trigger means better trigger job. All right, I got one other surface, and I'll show you the other part that we're going to polish, but we're going to do that one a little different. Okay, this is a little bit difficult, so I'm going to have to use my hand to kind of hold it and guide it. Okay, here I'm going to use this portion, the side of the wheel. You saw me charge it a little bit on the side. All right, that's all I need. Okay, we have one other part to polish. That's our plunger. This is painted in red. That is the surface it's going to contact the last part that we polished. However, this piece and this portion of it goes up and down in the slide. And sometimes the slide has a burr in it, or this gets scratched. So I'm going to polish the entire surface. Let me show you how that's done. Make sure that you have good control of the part. Grip the pliers tightly, all right? Okay, look at that. Now we got to get the sides of it. And we're going to use this portion, the edge of the wheel. Like that. Turn it a quarter of a turn. Hold on to it. That. Quarter of a turn. Squeeze the pliers. Turn it a quarter of a turn. Polish it. Now we got to get the other end. Flip it over. Polish it. Quarter of a turn. Another quarter. Okay, let's take a look at it. All right, we're through with this part. Let's just set it back down. Next thing that we need to do is to polish our surfaces here. That's the flat portion, because they're going to go up and down in the gun, and they have a lot of contact surfaces. So let's take the burrs off, put a nice little bit of finish. We don't have to get all the little imperfections out of it, and here's why. We just want to make it flat, and we want to make it to where there's no burrs. Those little bitty scratches in there can work for us, because that will hold oil. And also when it gets a little dusty or dirty in there and the parts move up and down, that'll give a place for all the contamination to go until the next time you take it apart and clean it. Okay, here's how we're going to do it, and this is what it's going to, here's our material that we're going to use. I just went down to a place like Home Depot or Lowe's or someplace, and I bought a piece of marble tile, and it's polished and it's flat, and it's flat enough to do our gun work. So there's two pieces of material that I use. This is wet or dry silicon carbide paper, and I use 1500 for the final finish and 800 to get the burrs off. Okay, let's start with the 800. pick up my part. How are we going to hold it? We're going to hold it with our fingers. Using our fingernail, we're going to move this back and forth. Let's take a look, see what we got. That's not bad. That's a doggone good finish just for our first go. We're going to do both sides. Remember how cruddy that looked? Look at that. Nice. Let's do the other piece. There it is. It's pretty cruddy. It doesn't take much to do it. Flip it over. I think we can do a little bit more on that. I could see a little bit of imperfection there. It looks like it wasn't stamped evenly. Much nicer. All right, let's go to the final polish, the 1500. See what kind of finish we're going to get out of this. This I rub rather briskly because there's not much grit in this sandpaper, so it's going to take a little bit more elbow grease. Wow, look at this. That is a good finish. That would be a good finish on the side of a slide. See, it doesn't take much effort. Have good equipment, know how to use it, and don't be afraid to do it. Polish this part. Now we're going to take one final inspection of it. Look at the parts now. A great deal of a difference between that than when we started. That will give us the minimum amount of friction from these three parts. Try that on your 1911. And I think when you do a trigger job, it's going to make it smoother. And how you can tell is when you take the trigger take up just before firing, you're not going to feel the little grit and the drag. Now with the smooth parts and everything, you won't even be able to feel it, but you can experience it. All right, now it's your turn. Do it on yours. And I'll see you next time for the tip for the workbench.